MIDP 2019, I'm Shari, the chair. On motion that this House will allow Caster Semenya to compete in the women's category without hormone alterations. On this respect, I like to call upon Prime Minister Caster Semenya.
In the status quo, I think we need to accept people with differences, whether it's fair or unfair to other individuals. I think it's justified that we give these individuals who are different the right to stay that way. The stance from opening government is very simple. We want a better life for these individuals, such as Caster Semenya in athletics. First, I have two arguments for today. Firstly, why is this giving her hormone altering treatment morally unjustified? And secondly, what is the harmful message that you send to society? But before that, a few clarifications, right? So Caster Semenya is an athlete with high amounts of testosterone in her, making her like run like 7 seconds faster than a normal woman. So there's the debate whether she should be allowed to continue competing in the women's category with hormone treatment, which will lower those amounts of testosterone, so that she will be like equal to the other athletes in the women's category. So moving on, right? So why is this so morally unjustified? Firstly, I think we need to recognize that she wasn't born. She was born this way, right? So it's not her fault if she has to go. If people like tell her you need to go for hormone altering treatment, right? You need to like give yourself medication so that you need to compete in these events. I think that this is so harmful because you damage like the emotion of that individual by telling her you need to suppress like all what you are born with, and you need to do this so that other people feel that it's fair for like athletics and it's fair for the competition. I think that this is so unjustified, right? Because she was not born that way. I don't think she should suffer all this like emotional pain and like all this backlash from the media and society, that she has to suppress all her hormones so that she just has to so that only then can she compete in the women's category, right? Secondly, I think that there's a very harmful message that he sends to society. But before I continue, sure.
So do you see a world where the women and the men division are completely abolished and there's only one single division for all genders, non-binary in sports?
I don't agree with that. Because like even Caster Semenya herself identifies as a woman. She believes herself to be a woman. I think that she has the right to go into the women's category. There's no need for like the men's and women's category to be combined, right? So secondly, right, how you send a very harmful message to society. So Caster Semenya has high levels of testosterone, so do transgender people, right? So like men who change their gender to become women, also like who are also athletes in this field, I think that these are also people who will be affected by this, right? Because realize that if you can do hormone altering treatment to people like Caster Semenya, intersex people, you can also do this to transgender individuals. And I think this is so harmful, right? Because you also affect them you also affect those people by saying that if you don't take this hormone treatment, you can't participate and things like that, right? I think that if you allow the Athletics Association to carry out this hormone treatment and to allow Caster Semenya to compete in that in the category, that's the point at which you allow for all these transgender people to be subjected to the same treatment as well. And in doing so, I think that you make people think that you reject their identity as a transgender, right? Like saying you have a problem with you cannot be allowed to compete without this medication, because transgender people they want to be the opposite gender, and in doing so, I don't think that they accounted for like people trying to suppress their hormones so that they don't run as fast as other women. I think that this is very harmful for these individuals. You send a horrible message to society that this is something that is necessary because it's fair for other individuals. I think the stance that we're trying to take is not a fair world for these people, because these individuals need as much support and like as little emotional harm from other people as possible. I think they need to feel a safe and conducive environment in athletics. They can't feel that at the point at which you're always telling them you need hormone treatment to stop running faster. That's a horrible world that we would like to live in. Yeah, sure.
Isn't it comparative that in your world that you get much more scrutiny because people see it as a tool that you use in order to run faster than other women?
I think that people may see it as a way like you run faster than other women, and by this they acknowledge that it's natural, right? It's not like you inject like steroids into your body so that you can run faster. It's more like you're born with it, and I think that although some people may discriminate against you because of that, it's like a lot of people will still not get angry because they realize that it's natural. It's not her fault that she has that high levels of testosterone in her body. So like the comparative between government and opposition is that although you get like some form of fairness by not letting her compete, so that other women who have normal testosterone levels like most likely will be able to win in these competitions, I think that we are willing to trade off that benefit for the right of Caster Semenya to be able to compete without any form of like suppression of her hormones, of her natural body. I think that's the benefit that we're willing to take, like having to promote people, like her right to be able to run even if she doesn't take the hormone treatment, because the point at which she take this hormone treatment is the point at which you make people think that this is necessary because it's not fair. I think that this is a horrible world we would like to live in. And in conclusion, I think opening opposition will take this debate. Opening government will take this debate because we have proved to you like why is it principally unjustified for you to alter hormones with treatment, and the harmful message that you send to society.
Thank you, Pierre. Leader of opposition, please.
I think you have to recognize the fact that when you are an intersex individual and you've already chosen a sex to be associated with, you've already made a decision to begin. Notice that the reference for a gender preference is she. That means for the female category is the preferred option or the preferred case that she would participate. Before I move any further with the debate, let's tackle side government straight on, because they tell you about how this is how she's born, that she'll feel damaged emotionally, it's not good for herself, she'll feel bad also. Let's get into that. So first thing, they tell us that she feels like because it's an identity, we cannot attack her identity. Notice that we are also trying to protect her identity, and it's within the best of the side opposition. So the reason why we want to protect our identity is that we don't want to see identity to be used as leverage, like a comparative to a drug, like how some athletes use a drug in order to enhance their performances, in order to win a race. Because we think that the common man would rather make that metric and then criticize the individual for winning a race just because of the testosterone levels within her body. So what is the outcome that you have upon individuals within the scene? So that means if you were to have sports pundits or sports media who would criticize this athlete that because of the testosterone levels, that you are the reason, and that's the very reason why you won the race. And the problem with this is that you do not have any other person to like empathize or to have the exact same scenario. So we don't have two sides to the coin, and the only opinion from herself is herself. So nobody is willing to like fill in her shoes and empathize with the individual, which makes it much more harder for her to express herself as an individual and saying that, oh, my testosterone level doesn't define who I am, when literally people take the testosterone level to define a gold medal, right? So what happens? It devalues the performances, it devalues all the effort and time she has spent as an athlete to get to the Olympics at that point in time, right? So we think that is the first problem with the issue. Second thing, she already chose the preferred gender that she wants, right? That means she already preferred, and it's a preferred option to take the female option. So when it's preferred to take the female option, it's more likely that you have to fit in with the female category. And notice that the IAAF is trying to be inclusive in its best interest to provide an alternative for the athlete itself, which is that for 6 months you have to you have to reduce your testosterone levels. Government tries to point it to you like, oh, transgender people have the alternative to suddenly change their gender for some apparent reason. Look, it's only for the purpose of the race. You still maintain your identity and you can celebrate it as much as possible. And I think you become an icon for a lot of other transgenders who want to take part in the race because you follow the rules and you try to make your win as legitimate as possible in order to seem plausible to individuals and become an icon for other people so that your other transgender athletes in the future can also take part in the race and be inclusive and take the necessary steps once they've already chosen their preferred sex, sexual orientation, or their preferred gender. Lastly, because what this leads to is like it delegitimizes the idea of transgenders or how they want to identify themselves. The reason why I say this is because you will have claims of individuals claiming to be a lesbian, a gay, a bisexual, or transgender, and they will use that as leverage so that they can participate in a certain sport. And if you allow the leeway for individuals to say that, oh, because this is my identity, I do not want to be antagonized because of my testosterone level, or even if that is not a possibility, it's not a consideration that many individuals will have and will criticize her for that. So we think that knowing the kind of opinions that people will have and the scrutiny and the delegitimization that will be placed upon the victory, we don't think it is in her best interest to to remove the testosterone levels and take part in the female category, which is our alternative for this debate. But let's contextualize her a bit more, right? Let's talk about this control level and what does it look like. First thing is it is an alternative provided by the International Athlete Federation, what do we call it? Second thing is for like a short span of 6 months, which is before the time of the competition. Third thing is that it provides an equal field for all the women competing in the sport. And the fourth thing is that you make yourself a legitimate candidate according to the criteria and the rules of the competition. So, and fifth is like an informed choice because she knows what she's getting into and she has to take like proper professionals to like see what drugs she's taking and then they can check and do some check and balances to see what she's doing. Sixth is an act of sportsmanship that people can attribute. I'll link this to my argument. And it's given for like a suitable duration and it's already informed so it doesn't change the entirely.
Sure, your rules were set by the patriarchal structure of an archaic time. Are you literally telling us there should be a standard placed upon how much you can cap the success of women or those who identify as women on your certain house?
No, we don't want to as much as we just want their success to be legitimate at the end of the day. Yeah. Because the problem with the patriarchy structure that they want to implement is that people will criticize you and delegitimize your victory. Let's go to a context like the people who will view your victories, right? For example, she has a lot of media coverage since she's an athlete. She has followers, she has transgender followers, minority followers, right? I don't want to discriminate anyone on this kind of equity problems. And she has like her country backing her, right? So we know that South Africa has like Oscar Pistorius, there are other like disabled people, and they want to celebrate these kind of individuals. So it's quite an inclusive country when it comes to athletes. So what actually happens when you make a stance on this issue, right? So first thing, let's talk about how transgender children or other people will look up to you. So first thing is that because of your inclusiveness, they look at it as sportsmanship and they want to celebrate the fact that you have taken an effort in order to allow transgenders to still continue to exist within the scene. Because notice that if there were to be backlash or scrutiny, when people delegitimize it, you have no one to look up to appropriately because of the social pressure or the peer pressure you experience from other individuals as to what is right and what is wrong for who is a candidate that is appropriate for this scene. Secondly, media coverage. So your sports buddies, your sports pundits, and your experts who talk about this field. And because these individuals feel that this testosterone level is what defines your performance at every single micro level of the games, makes it much more effective, right? Like how a few milliseconds can define whether you win or not. So any form of like difference of factors can be very important within the sporting scene. And these sporting pundits and individuals will criticize that and make that a critical point of her career. So all her time and all her energy is going to be under criticism at this point. So what does this mean, right? It tarnishes her reputation as a whole, and also like why it's also important for her to do it. Let's talk about the country and community, right? Because she's an example for her community, she's an example for the athlete. So she carries the reputation of all of those individuals. The point at which she makes this decision, she actually like creates a decision which everybody will perceive as a blanket policy for the rest of the transgenders, because she's the first person taking a stance on whether to not include or whether to include or not the testosterone level, right? So many people want to define other transgender athletes with the same notion as well, whether you go to the female or male categories. So why is this important? Because it makes it harder for other individuals to voice about cases where they've actually done the right thing, when she's doing it in the Olympics and getting much more scrutiny. So all the other athletes or minority athletes who want to seem like they're doing the right thing or be more legitimate as candidates are already delegitimized from the very beginning itself. So what actually happens in our debate? First thing, we legitimize the success as an athlete. The second thing is that we allow identity to exist, but the only comparative is that we limit it for a certain amount of time. So she's a plausible candidate for the race. Third, she's a legitimate candidate, so everybody accepts her by the rules. And fourth, her gold medals become legitimate or participation becomes legitimate. If you want a candidate who wants to fight for community, follow the rules that she's already picked upon, which is a gender orientation, and she will win the right war.
Thank you. Hello, DPM.
I'll deal with a few arguments that side opening opposition brought to you and then continue with my own. The first thing that they tell you is that no one will empathize with her and people will hate on her because she's technically cheating in the sport. So number one, I think the entire nation of South Africa will empathize with her and will support her for whatever she does. Because A, your South Africans also want you to win the Olympics, and having this having Caster Semenya competing in Olympics is already a big enough boost for South Africa to recognize and will support Caster Semenya and whatever she does, even if that means it's some form of cheating, like what side opening opposition wants to say. And the second thing they tell us is that you can become an icon in the future for transgender individuals. Because recognize these transgender individuals will less likely take that hormonal injection or whatever to reduce their testosterone level because they feel that their identity is more it's a bigger benefit for them, and that gives them the most amount of happiness. I think that's more important. So you don't get to become any form of icon to anybody at all. I think you just make it worse for these individuals because they know that no matter what happens, they have to trade off their identity in order to participate in the race. You become a message telling all other transgender individuals that you, as a transgender individual, you cannot participate in this race unless you sacrifice your identity and you trade that off. No, thank you. The first argument, the moral justification of it. So you need to recognize that it was just birth lottery and she got in and she was an intersex. She didn't choose to be born with extra testosterone. She didn't take substances in order to win the race. This is completely different than steroids, where you have a choice in order to take steroids and therefore you should be punished. If you are born with an intersex and you have different hormones that maybe somewhat will make you win the race, I think that's far preferable and it's completely fine because you didn't choose to make that decision and you didn't choose to have that hormones. But more importantly, is that you strip herself away from identity. She can never celebrate being a minority or can never celebrate being an intersex individual because you take away those hormones from her and she becomes a normal woman that participates in the Olympics. No, thank you. And another thing is that unfair factors happen anyway in Olympics. People with longer legs are more likely going to run faster than the average woman. People with lighter bodies are more likely going to run faster than the average woman. All these factors also are factors that people are born with. Why would you then not strip all those other factors off? Because if you say that it's unfair for her because she has extra testosterone levels, then you should also penalize all individuals, or you should have a height category of all your individuals who are female or all your individuals who are male. When you have those categories, is when you just make sport and not you make sports something that people don't want to watch, and you have no more glorification of it. I think that's when it becomes harmful, and all the values of Caster Semenya has been devalued. But before I continue, sure.
Yeah, so we think those kind of check and balances exist when you have certain categories for weightlifting, right? So we think even in races, like there is a legitimacy that any person can run a certain speed at a fast rate. So the candidate is legitimate still.
You don't have a height and weight category in races. That's not true. But if you want to say that you cannot participate because you have the hormones, then you also agree that you should have this kind of other categories within your women and men's categories, because that's just principally inconsistent if you don't have that. But my next argument is that how you devalue all the hard work of Caster Semenya that she has put in. Recognize that this individual, if she takes that hormone injection or that hormone treatment, she runs 7 seconds slower than what she used to run. This means there is the ability for her to win Olympics or the ability for her to make her nation proud is far lesser, and the ability for her to win the race is you almost just can't do it. But that means that all the hard work she has done before the years, the fact that she probably sacrificed education in order to get these things done, the fact that she probably sacrificed like go on healthy diets in order to make sure that she's the most fit individual of all time, I think that's when it's more legitimate. And when you value those hard work that this individual put in, I think that's when sports becomes a better sportsmanship act, and I think that's what we want at the end of the day. But before we continue, yeah.
So a lot of the sacrification that she does is also mutual to other, other athletes as well. Given the concession given by your PM saying that we are okay trading off with other people's win in order to give her emotional stability, why does the right of other athletes is triumphed by her?
Can you repeat that?
Why is Caster Semenya so morally important that it triumphs other people's ability to win the tournament value?
Okay, so recognize that the other individuals can also win the tournament. It's not impossible for them to win. Sure, they have some form of ability and some form of advantage if you have these hormones, but I think it's completely fine if you have all the other benefits that we bring to you into this debate. Because recognize that you also get scrutiny under your side of the house. When Caster Semenya doesn't win when you take off their hormones, people can just say the only reason you've gone this far in your tournament and you've gone this far in your legacy is because you had the hormones. Because without your hormones, you are nothing, you are completely useless, and you're not eligible to race because you're not fast enough. This is when there's more scrutiny towards Caster Semenya. There are more people that will hate on her, and there are more legitimate facts that people will point out and say that you as an individual is illegitimate and useless to your community. I think when you as an individual didn't choose to make those decisions in your life, didn't choose to pick your testosterone level and didn't choose to use it or in any form of way, I think it's completely legitimate for you to do so. It's the same reason why we accept other individuals who are minorities. For example, we accept individuals who are gay, we accept individuals who are lesbian, because they were born with that testosterone level. I don't think it's something that you can fight against because you're just born that way. If the individual chose to take steroids or chose to make that hormone decision, I think that's when you can penalize that individual. The fact that she was born with it means it's completely legitimate and completely fine to do so. I think when Caster Semenya is not allowed to compete in the women's category for Olympics, you devalue all that hard work that she put in. You send the wrong message to other individuals on the ground, and you make scrutiny for her even higher. For all those reasons, it's very proud to propose.
Thank you, BDsm.
think it's absolutely morally abhorrent for the Thai government to come out here and tell you that like as long as you know they will do whatever it takes just to win gold medal, even if at the expense of other individuals on the ground. Even like they don't seem to recognize that other people have also worked very, very hard for the medals that they have today. And we tell you that in instances right now, when you allow Caster Semenya to just compete the way she is right now, she's taking away tons of women opportunities on the ground, and we think that it's very shameful that as the world they try to defend. Few things I'm going to do in today's debate. I'm going to move on to rebuttals and moving on to few of my substantive. Firstly, they came out and tell you that like that if we don't allow Caster Semenya to do this, like why don't we just strip other individuals of like because they have like different level of hormone. We tell you it's different when it comes to Caster Semenya because the level of hormone she has is vastly different as compared to other individuals. Like the range, the difference between her and other women are just too drastic as compared to the example they want to bring up. You see now, and also we tell you that the IF also provided like a certain range. It's not a fixed number of the hormone you have to have, but it's been in between a range so they can keep it fair for those individuals on the ground to compete fairly. And so if they work hard enough, they are on an even playing field. But as compared to their side, when you allow Caster Semenya to compete at her level right now, we tell you that she disenfranchised other individuals at the same time. Please sit down. Then after she said like she wanted like she's an icon for South Africa, and then as long as they'll do anything for they'll make sure that she brings back the gold medal because that's what Africa wants. We don't think that that's what South Africa truly want, because we tell you that they're focusing on the short run benefit as compared to long benefit, because recognize they already told you that like she will likely be scrutinized. The fact that she's seen to be unfair, the fact that she seemed to be a cheater in the sport. We tell you that in the short run, sure she brings like attention to her country, but in the long run, she'll likely tarnish the image of the country, and this will affect other things that I will further explain in my speech. And then also they also come and tell you that that why must she suppress herself to cater to the needs of the other. We tell you there are so many more other individuals on the ground that work very, very hard. We tell you it's unfair for other women athletes. We tell you that secondly, we tell you she'll likely be scrutinized by other people because people will say that she won't deserve it, and she also feel that she don't deserve it in the long run, because like she knowingly know that she knows that she has more hormones than other individuals. She knows she's at an advantage, so she will likely feel like she don't deserve it, and thirdly, she'll likely be hated by the sport community. We don't think that's the best interest. That's at all in the best interest of her. Moving on to my substantive. Why is this in the best interest of her to like reduce her hormone level? We tell you when you allow we allow her to compete in like the gender category that she identifies herself best. We tell you she identifies herself a woman, so we think that she should belong in the category of a woman because that's where she feels the most comfortable. We tell you when she participates in this and when she reduces her hormone level, we tell you it sends a message out there that she's a good sport, that she has good sportsmanship and she was respected for it. The fact that she wants to be on an even playing field with others, because this can maintain like a better image for herself. And I will tell you that when she has a better image for herself, she's likely to be celebrated as an icon. She can bring recognition for her country. Recognize that South Africa don't really have much athletes, they don't have like an abundance of athletes. But like because like the fact that especially women athletes, the fact that she as an individual, especially coming from a minority group, is able to go out there and play and compete fairly, we tell you this will likely bring better recognition as compared to the recognition and the icon that's celebrated on side government, because we tell you the icon, the Caster Semenya on their side, when they allow her to compete in current status quo, we tell you you'll bring very, very bad image for the company and you'll affect a lot of other things. Before that,
you assume she'll still win if after the point she knows her testosterone level. And if one is a literal minority, knows level and cannot win, how then do you garner all these benefits of literal individuals looking up towards an icon?
She will still be celebrated an icon. The fact that she's willing to like give up her gold medal, give up winning in order to be on an even playing field, with that she will even be celebrated. And even if she at the point in time where she wins, then good, she brings more attention. But even if she don't, she still brings more attention because the fact that she's willing to be fair. And then we tell you that we tell you the fact that when in current status quo, if Caster Semenya is still compete, we tell you that the sport is played with the idea that like people take like steroids and people like cheat to it. We tell you that negative stigma, when you allow Caster Semenya to continue to compete the way she'll be likely attached to the stigma of being like steroid ridden. And we tell you this means that they're very likely to tarnish her image. This means so that's why we tell you that because her image tarnished at the same time, meaning to say that her country's image is tarnished at the same time. We tell you this is not her best interest, and her best interest is to reduce the testosterone level so that she's not demonized by the community. Therefore, when she's willing to be fair and a good sportsman, to face the fact that she's willing to reduce her testosterone level and compete fairly, he sends a message to the community, to the sports community, that she's respectable athlete. The fact that that not only she's a minority, she's an intersex athlete, the fact that she's so respectable for the measures she took in order to be fair with, and even playing with everybody, this means she'll likely garner more support in the long run. This means that one day she'll be celebrated an icon, please sit down. And not only that, this means that she'll probably gain international headline, considering that a lot of first world countries, they are very heavily, very liberal. This means that those countries are likely to recognize South Africa as a country that, because now they will probably likely gain media attention and gain media traction. This means that in the long run, they also gain better funding. They will gain better coaches in those states, because the IF will be more likely incentivized to fund this country, because this also at the same time garner media attention for the IF, because recognize the IF also want to increase in media coverage. So when Caster Semenya willing to be this respectable athlete, she's likely able to garner more support from the entire community, and also in liberal states like the US. So we tell you that when she is able to bring in all this funding and all these coaches to countries like South Africa where they lack facilities, this means that she's able to encourage more athletes on the ground, not just for the LGBTQ community, but also the community as a whole. And she was able to encourage more athletes to play. And when this happens, this will more likely allow more individuals on the ground to have opportunity. Recognize that there's such a huge talent pool in South Africa. The fact that we have so many amazing athletes from Africa, but just because they don't have the opportunity to succeed, with Caster Semenya being this respectable icon, she's able to garner all this attention, and she's able to bring all this support for her country. And for all those reasons, I'm now very proud to
Thank you, Yellow. Member of Congress.
Michael Phelps also had high levels of hormones which improved his stamina. But if they want to be principally consistent and tell us that they want to have an equal playing field, I think that they should also principally stand for compounding all these factors that result in a better athlete. Things that are biologically inherited, things like stamina, physique, all the hormones and metabolism, and even the structural barriers that you have to overcome in order to become an athlete in the first place. These are all things that make for what they want to consider an equal playing field. And I think that if they want to assess it in that way, if they want to say that you should impose a set testosterone level or a set identity upon people who choose to identify as women, I think that they should principally stand for that as well. So there's two things that I'm going to be extending this debate. Firstly, why there's no such thing as an equal playing field in sports, and why they're determined by biologically inherited traits. And secondly, how you continue to compound the impacts of sexism and discrimination in society while you get rid of Caster Semenya as an LGBT and feminist icon by choosing to let her capitulate to such institutions who have been founded upon the principles of patriarchy in the first place. But before I begin, I'm going to start with some rebuttals, right? So closing POI, and they said, why can't we just get rid of all the categories? But obviously recognize that firstly, if we agree that if you have male and female athletes in the same competition, this will result in less success for women. But the difference in this situation here is, firstly, that Caster Semenya was born and identifies as a woman, and it is not a cyclical or structural thing that oppresses all sorts of women in all of the races, right? Eventually she'll be replaced, and recognize that at the point at which she wins, it is still a win for women, not one that is for men. So we think that it is important for the feminist community that we do have that, and that is not the same thing. But secondly, what side opening opposition came up here and said was that, eventually you diminish her efforts. But firstly, recognize that just because she has a biologically inherited trait does not mean that she does not deserve it anymore. Because recognize that all the other athletes who have succeeded also have, for example, longer legs or whatever side opening government wanted to tell you, right? Secondly, we don't recognize that we can celebrate her biologically inherited gifts and talents. And thirdly, recognize that she also had to suffer discrimination based on the fact that she was different from other people, and that this effort should also not be disregarded completely and simply given away. But also, they said that she can be used as leverage, so she'll be delegitimized because people believe that her efforts are not legitimate. But recognize, right, at the point in which she gets rid of these testosterone levels, all her past successes will be seen as a fluke. That means that this opens her up to more of the demonization that opening opposition wants to talk about. And furthermore, we think that patriarchal structures and men will find ways to otherize LGBT and feminist individuals anyway. And even if they are salty about her success, or there's news coverage saying that, oh, she did not deserve this opens up platforms or communities to share her success story, as opposed to if she loses, they will not have anything to celebrate in the first place. When this story first came out, and it was a big news story, I didn't see much criticism about the issue. Instead, I saw support and exposure for these communities, and her appeal in the first place was celebrated. If Caster Semenya does not take a stand, there's nothing to celebrate for these communities in the first place from the get-go. Why does she mean more than other athletes? Firstly, we don't think it's about Caster Semenya specifically as an individual, but rather how we're able to uplift women and entire communities, but also in addition, that we should give her the choice that she deserves. So firstly, why exactly are biologically inherited traits determinants of success in sports? Because recognize, right, the whole basis of sports is based upon the high levels of hormone, stamina, your physique, your metabolism, all these factors are compounded, but these are all based on the birth lottery, right? And even things like whether you had access to training from a young age, whether you had a supportive environment in which you grew up in. So for them to say that you want to have an equal playing field, they need to take into account all these other factors, otherwise it is principally inconsistent. For them to say, oh, there's a high level of testosterone, therefore you should take it down. Firstly, who gets to determine this testosterone level? We think it's very arbitrary. But secondly, it is something that is determined by the precedent structures in society. There is no such thing as an equal playing field. We think that they should set a precedent to not deprive individuals of success at the point in which other individuals are also benefiting from this as well. But secondly, on the contentious point of sexism and discrimination, right? There are a few levels of analysis to this. Firstly, why exactly do these international organizations get to define what exactly a woman is, or set a specific testosterone level where she becomes a woman? We think that it's important that individuals are able to get the right to self-identification and determination. But before I continue, yes.
Even if Caster Semenya win all the gold medal at this point, right? Don't you think like all her gold medal will be very, very diluted in the sports scene?
Okay, firstly, recognize, as we told you again and again, there are many factors that go into winning. But secondly, this is not just a success for her, but also a success for the community. Because when they say that her achievements will be watered down, in fact, I think that is an achievement for the community that is able to pass, these legislations and rules in the first place, so that they're accurately represented within these sports in the first place. And I think that these gold medals will only continue to increase her exposure. Secondly, why exactly are these built upon patriarchy we think that the patriarchal structures that have existed since hundreds of years ago, who set these rules, they capped the achievements that women can achieve and the success they can achieve. We think that it is morally wrong to punish women for something that they were born with, for something that wasn't a choice, for example, Caster Semenya's testosterone levels. Thirdly, we think that feminism is about free choice, right? In many parts of society, women already elect this sort of free choice. The difference in this situation is at the point in which Caster Semenya is not allowed to join to be able to put in, use her life's work and her effort in order to join the category which she wants to, and in order to self-identify. I think that this further compounds the issue. But why is this so impactful, right? Why is this not just about one person specifically? Fourthly, we think that it is a platform for otherizing and to set standards in society. Because at the point where you set legislator, this is a precedent for social change. But finally, I think that sports is important because it is a part of popular culture. It is a social normative force that shapes societal narratives. Because firstly, recognize that even though, in the first place, it transcends international boundaries, right? This means that many individuals who had never heard of the terms transgender, intersex in the first place in countries that are not the Western liberal democracies that they want to talk about, will be able to gain exposure to these things from the get-go. I think that that's very important. And without Caster Semenya being able to have her testosterone levels and compete, there's no way this is going to be reported on within society. But furthermore, I think that it is very important because governments may be able to block out socially progressive movements, but they aren't able to block out pop culture. And I think that it's very important for sports to be able to allow her to fully represent herself and to not put a restriction upon how she should identify herself or what makes her a woman. So what have we told you today? We told you why there's no such thing as an equal playing field and that they're living in an idealistic world and merely want to put a cap on women's success. Go with Caster Semenya.
Thank you, member of government, member of opposition.
So, ladies and gentlemen, while acknowledging the opening half of this debate with their very confusing, even the opening opposition, while with their confusing characterization of what fairness in sports should be, not to mention how closing government came out with this debate with their new characterization of that, the fact that there's no equal playing field, I think this debate has gone to a very confusing point. So the differences that side closing opposition chooses to enter this debate, that will prove you two things. Number one, we'll talk you through about what is really the principle of sportsmanship. But secondly, is it really realistic when it comes to gaining support for Caster Semenya or your patriarchal structures you wanted to talk about? So, rebuttals. Number one, how do we deal with opening government in today's debate? This is threefold. The first, PM argued it was morally unjust to strip her participation in sports because this is bad, right? It's seen as morally unjust. Number one, we haven't heard as to why it was morally unjust to begin with. We haven't heard as to what constitutes it to be morally unjust. But secondly, we argue even if it was morally unjust at a certain point, we don't really care because think at the flip side, Malaysia, it's morally unjust for these athletes who have worked hard or trained hard just as equal as her to lose because she does other athletes don't have the extra leverage as her anyway, which is why we are able to strip her rights away of participation anyway. But B, I think both of these speakers try to argue about how she should be emotional, should be sad, and she can represent her country, no empowerment for her, right? I mean, like really, if the country's reputation and her reputation is so important, then literally this Caster Semenya would undergo the hormone treatment and join it later, right? I don't understand what's so important because really, if she wants to represent her country fully, she doesn't really mind undergoing a hormone treatment anyway. Done with that. C, they wanted to say that allowing Caster Semenya sends a message because you celebrate people with differences. I think it was exceptionally clear coming from the opening opposition that people already that we already have differentiate people in their own way. Like for example, you have differences weight in sumo, for instance, right? And like even we categorize people according to age because they have different testosterone level anyway. Which is why, ladies and gentlemen, we think that it's uncontroversial to say that the equal playing level field constitutes something that is so important that is actually a game changer, which in this case is testosterone level, right? So how do testosterone. So number two, how do we deal with CG into this debate? This is threefold too. Number one, the speaker we heard talk about how celebration of women is important. We cannot cap the success of women, right? Number one, I think her success at this point is already legitimized for the majority of society. At the point her story or at the point her enemies, for instance, in athlete points out that she has extra or 3 times testosterone level lesion. This is at the point which people delegitimize her efforts of winning the particular gold medal to begin with, which is why the argument of celebrating women doesn't really matter at the point in which people don't see her as being empowering at best. So even if you win, what you get, that we don't think you change the circumstances, especially patriarchal structures. Given that people already think that she's cheating by having extra testosterone levels, I think people will call her out. She would be depressed at the end of the day because people are calling her and things like that. But before continuing, yeah, sure.
the difference between like height and weight groups and this is that she is a vulnerable minority who has no exposure in society. If you don't allow her to compete, you're basically telling LGBT individuals who don't fit into society structures that they're not fit to. Their identities are not valid if they do not fit into the set structures that institutions tell them that they have to.
I think it's unfair to prioritize vulnerable minorities. Or I mean, if I were you guys, I would just let her win, right? Because they are vulnerable minorities. What's the actual function of sports if you actually let her have that advantage to begin with? I don't think there's any explanation as to why that's so. But she wanted to talk about that there's no equal playing field when we have when we don't allow Caster Semenya to participate. Like literally, the argument is just against sport as a whole. People have different stamina, people have different weight and things like that nature. So even if you want to argue that everyone has different levels of weight, for instance, we are able to categorize that as well, right? So I don't think like the argument has to really stand this way because like each everyone is different, right? But see, so she wanted to talk about how allowing Caster Semenya is a platform for other athletes. We don't really think so. At the point which people call her out for having extra testosterone level, I think it's at the point which people are fed up and want to join these types of sports that is participated by her. Because realize that other athletes have feelings too. Everyone wants to win in these circumstances, right? So when you have an athlete with extra testosterone level, for instance, right? What is the incentive for you to win? Because realize that testosterone levels in your body increases the rate of muscle growth. Like even if your other athletes train as hard as you wouldn't get to the rate of people who have double the testosterone level anyway. So principle of sportsmanship, why it's important. I think it's actually important to note that this debate that Caster Semenya in so far of her career won like back-to-back 800 meter, 1000 meter, 1200 meter Olympic, and for this fantastic achievement, it's uncontroversial to say that testosterone levels does not affect sports, for instance, right? So what constitutes sportsmanship or fairness in sports? Well, we think, the other side CEO, we think that what constitutes fairness in sports is when you don't have any specific leverage that differs you from others in a specific game. For instance, when you talk about in sumo, right, we don't allow people who have extra weight to go against people, individuals that's skinny, right? So realize even if the other athletes train as hard as you are unable to withstand that in any way. Given the characterization, what does our world look like? We think that we provide an equal level playing field that is the closest to what fairness is. That is to say, realize there are thousands of Olympians waiting to win. We don't think that it's fair for these people to lose just because other people have a biological advantage. So why is it important? Number one, we send a message to people that sports is actually an equal playing field. That IAF is inclusive of everyone. In that particular circumstance. Because an individual has different testosterone level doesn't mean that she deserves to win or she deserves to represent a minority at the end of the day. We think that also on our side of to incentivize more people to join sports because now it's an equal level playing field for people to join at the end of the day. But really, ladies and gentlemen, I think side opposition to this government to this debate has legitimized the actual goal of sports to celebrate one's actual ability in being better, in actually gaining gold medal at the end of the day, and that's why I'm exceptionally proud to
Thank you, member of government youth. Okay.
Thanks. This debate isn't in the perspective of patriarchal men that want to demean and delegitimize the success of women. It's about whether women should capitulate towards arbitrary standards that were archaic and patriarchal structures, so be very careful telling them there's a cap towards the amount of success they can achieve. Then inherently was extension coming out from each end, no response from closing opposition at all. Two things I'm pointing out both my issues in this debate. The first, CEO was a literal rehash of open opposition. I didn't see any new value in terms of all these fairness of sportsmanship at all. But also B, it's extremely ironic that his response was EJ's literal argument on the arbitrariness of fair playing in sports is the idea that it's an argument against sports as a whole, considering their entire extension was about how sportsmanship should be upheld and how fairness is somewhat important in that world. No response was in analysis EJ gave to numerous other factors which you can take into account in terms of having a fair playing field. The first issue on closing opposition isn't morally unjust, and they told us that our principle was unpremised at all. We told him it's morally unjust for women to literally succumb towards the expectations or the standards men choose to place on this individual. But Michael Phelps, who literally was biologically gifted in hormones to maintain high levels of stamina, isn't when a person is forced to lower those very hormones, even though those hormones give him the very same unfair advantage in swimming as well. We don't see parallel there, we don't see any comparative shows how that is extremely different. But the second, they tell us other athletes are significantly harmed in the process. I'm sorry your white women are unable to win the Olympics. Because right now, we have South African women who worked very hard, who had a literal lack of access to resources because she was born into a developing nation that did not have the ability to help her in the process of sports. She had one benefit of the biological birth, something shared with a lot of the best sportsmen in the exact same world. We don't see a reason as to why she must succumb to the pressure of white individuals just because some people are salty that a success is what is so-called illegitimate. They say our argument on the arbitrariness of sports is what is illegitimate. Two reasons why this isn't true. The first, the idea of arbitrariness of having a fair playing field means that no matter what character or standard you set, it is still extremely unlikely you're able to achieve your burden. You choose to take the burden, you're going to have a very fair sport. But in a world in which people have different access towards opportunities and privilege to training, having good coaches, for example, it doesn't change the fact there's still be significantly different disparities between the ability of a person to excel in the sport, no matter who they are or where they are born in. We don't see how you take the benefit on your side of the house. The second level to is the parallel they give to us on things like sumo weights and all those things, right? So the first idea is that A, you don't need to actively change something that's so integral to your identity when you want to opt into a particular weight category. You're not expected to go suddenly burn down weight and suddenly burn on 50 kilograms just so you compete in a particular category. But the difference between this individual is that this person literally needs to abide by a rule where she did not consent to of lowering her testosterone levels. She literally chose to not want to capitulate towards the standard. We don't think she should be forced to do so. The main issue is very simple. In which will I able to garner more success and more support for Caster and also the female identity as a whole? So all the arguments on their side, the delegitimization of success of this individual was not parallel, not comparative at all. It was all in the perspective of a singular patriarchal structure that will no matter under what circumstance, find some reason to delegitimize success of whoever they feel do not deserve it as much as people they care about. This debate has to be in response and in a comparative to the other groups of individuals which will provide support to Caster, i.e. the very same media group that chose to give support for her in showing that she's right in the action, but also families who support her choice to maintain her stand and choose to identify as a woman. And third, her South African community and any community with a Roman developing backgrounds that choose to say that I want an emblem of success coming from an underprivileged background. Those are the ones which you must parallelly compare to. I'll do that in this speech. Everyone, sure.
Yeah, so we think. Oh, never mind.
Just
okay, yeah. So the comparative is like in your world, even women will like be hateful towards this very athlete because she's taking away another woman's medal that they should have won.
So that is the assumption of like white women who are in a competition with Casters. Like that is one of less priority. That's not as vulnerable. We'll prove to you why in this argument. Key premises to why Gulf says, to why opposition says it's illegitimate, and that's why it's bad. The first, having a biological advantage is mutually exclusive to the fairness of sports. We have successfully debunked this by saying that in a lot of circumstances, no matter how privileged you are in your biological birth lottery, you still gain unequal access to success, and you are still credited for those forms of successes. i.e. Michael Phelps, for example, we don't see any disparity within this. But the second, the idea that testosterone, high levels of testosterone is equal to and associated to doping. We don't think it's true for sexuals that should be born with it. There's no inherent trait or inherent difference she chose to make under these circumstances, but there are rules and regulations that need to be followed. So the idea of the rules and regulations which you have are extremely archaic in nature. That means it was set in the very past where people chose not to respect all the rights of freedom of choice of women and chose to literally set the cap on how well women can perform in sports. That's why because when they recognize testosterone levels, because it can vary women, can lead to different circumstances, they chose to cap it to ensure that maybe in those sports women don't end up having better successes than men, for example. Those are the very simple premises in which we women should never capitulate to. So the second level to this is the idea of in which world I want to gain better support for this individual, right? So it's based upon how well her success will be celebrated, right? The first thing I talk about is the coverage she gets and the point which she chooses to lower her testosterone level. So in this world, note that she has won multiple past gold medals. This is extremely dangerous for her because when she lowers her testosterone level and starts losing competitions, the problem you get is the world where you start regarding all the past successes as a fluke, as one such an illegitimate, and was solely premised upon the fact that she had a biological advantage. That isn't what is beneficial for the image of this individual as a whole. If that is true, you get less coverage which is positive on her either way, and more coverage is more negative. Continue blaming her for the past because the very same patriarchal structures in which you want to talk about will still continue blaming her and victim blame her under these circumstances in your world. But the second, you compare it to the world which you are able to challenge the narrative, right? So feminist icons and some African icons will play upon the idea that she needs to come towards the words and standards of men. She needs to come towards the patriarchal structure and she chose to take a stand. This is being comparative towards the patriarchal men that say that isn't legitimate because blah 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 reason that's really unjustified. In the comparative, we think the direct way to solve it is extremely simple. The only thing we prove to you that the arbitrariness of fairness in sports is one that is extremely hard to prove. The value of that argument is extremely diluted in nature. But the comparative what our side can rely on is the ability for women to stand up and take a stand and to be respected, to never capitulate to men that choose to set a standard that caps them unfairly. We think this is the world which we are more able to empower women, where we empower individuals. We see the world that's better for all minorities in general. We are very proud to propose.
Thank you, God. With or with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see that people are born equally. They have differences physically and emotionally. But one day, when society was developing, we decided we're going to fight each other, we're going to compete together because of, say, our ego to get that medal, right? And that's why we create categories, so it's fair. And we can see that we cannot have a perfect system, but what we can do, and this is the word coming from side of closing opposition, is we find the closest approximation to what fairness is, and we make that the standard. If we find a standard in the future that's much better, we change to that standard because we have explained to you the principle of sportsmanship and why is it important. It's so weird for side of government to try to defend women, for women's empowerment, when literally Caster Semenya are the one who's taking away titles from them because she has an overarching advantage compared to them. We've seen these cases not just from Caster Semenya, but from a lot of other cases, specifically high school boxing, if I'm not mistaken, where this transgender women went into there and literally dominated the circuit for more than 4 years. Caster Semenya did this for 3 years by winning the 800 meters sprint, 1000 and also 1200 sprint. So the first question, there are a few questions I'm going to answer in today's debate. Firstly, is testosterone a fair standard? This clashes directly with CO, as he says, is arbitrary. 3 reasons as such. Firstly, it doesn't fluctuate that much. Sure, age, environment does change, but it's very minute. The standard set by the International Olympic Committee is 10 nanomoles per liter of blood. Caster's is 3 times higher, even higher compared to men's standard, which is, okay, I'm just gonna say it's fucking crazy, I tell you. Secondly, it directly affects muscle growth. In turn, your speed, agility, your strength. This is why world records of sports set by men and women differ greatly. For example, planking by men 10 hours, 10 minutes, 10 seconds. By women, 4 hours only. Deadlifts. Most guys who enter the gym without any training could beat all the world records set by women. This is, I tell you, the difference testosterone could create inside a sports environment. Thirdly, the procedure to reduce or increase testosterone levels are not invasive. We can see side effects may include nausea as your body continues to familiarize with the hormone. But other than that, it only involves an IV line and there are no other health complications. So the question then begs, is weight, leg length, etc. a fair standard as well, and should we change it? First response, a lot of aspects can be changed through hard training. Your weight could be changed in majority of cases. Secondly, long legs doesn't give you an absolute advantage over other athletes. For example, long legs are good for short bursts, 100-meter sprints, but short legs are good for marathons. And even then, there are so many iterations to what a perfect body is in certain scenarios. The conclusion to this is that a lot of these iterations could change based on the hard work you put into training. But to answer CEO's statement of different categories for different bodies, what we have is that, for example, Taekwondo and most martial arts have weight categories. In some tournaments, there are height categories, and in football and a lot of other tournaments, we have age categories because we can see that there should be a level playing field for all these athletes. Yes.
To concede that men have a disproportionate advantage in terms of having records being broken. If we have a literal woman that's able to break through those records right now, why is that a good emblem to aid feminism, to aid women identity as a whole?
Because sports isn't just a social movement. It's about sportsmanship, it's about fairness, it's about making it so fair so that other people who put in the hard grind and work could actually win something at the end of the day. Because note that what you're doing is also at the expense of women who are training hard as well. So second question, is Caster Semenya a beacon for trans people in sport? CEO made it sound like they need her to win, that they are willing to even go to the extent of doping her to make sure she wins for the name of feminism, or for the name of trans women competing in sports. This operates on the assumption that there is no controversy about her. The IAAF literally banned her from the next Olympics. She's going against the IOC rulings. What she is doing is literally antithetical to not just public interest, but more specifically to women's interests within her division. Why is this harmful? It's because this impedes on the world's effort to get into sports with no binary. Year and year, we have more trans people entering into sports. In 2007, the IOC banned gender reassignment surgeries because it was considered a violation of human rights. Then they build more inclusive laboratories inside those stadiums. In government, you give people ammunition to say that sports is now a social movement agenda, and it's not something that used to be a fair playing field where everybody, no matter your age or no matter your gender, could enter. And it is now unfair. So what harms the most is that now women are going to piss on her. Now feminism you try to defend become fractionalized and divisive because people will think that she is a bigot, and a lot of people will think that she's a person who's opportunistic and taking other people's ability to win the tournament fairly. Yes.
Your full case premise upon defense of sports based upon the training quickly. Quite frankly, training regimes, they are optimum ones which are abided by a lot and very same sports people. There isn't enough disparity between how much you train, why then you have some sort of fairness in your work if people do train at the same rate at the same pace.
What do you mean there's no disparity when training? Like literally training makes all the difference. If you watch NBA or a lot of other sports, you'll understand what I'm saying. So like another question, is it morally unjust? Some closing of opposition say that people need to succumb to constructed identities. Well, given that it's a tournament and multiple parties are involved and the whole goal is trying to win the tournament, I think, and it is not just encompassed by white people as you try to put it, I think morality doesn't become about succumbing to constructed identities at the end of the day. And also, they want to say that you are required to change your identity and this is not the same as changing your weight. Well, I could put the same argument towards you that weight and gender or identity are just morally abstract concepts that humans succumb to, and we don't find any inclusive moral imperative to why changing your identity is so different to changing your weight or other factors through training. So last issue, what would happen to Caster Semenya after she changes her testosterone? Worst case scenario, she loses, right? Her medals get revoked and everything she worked for demolished. We say, fine, we're okay with it. Because in the end of the day, what we support in principle, and this still proves our burden, is sportsmanship should always be fair, and it isn't about a game of minority. It includes everybody, and this is the message we want to be sending. It's not just about Caster Semenya, but it's also about the other trans women out there. We are the people trying to defend them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wasn't there.
It breaks alright.
Yeah.
After what?
Oh, okay.
Oh, they say break, not break.